Good morning, friends. This is your old girl, Melanie Rose, here to share your daily aspects. Today is January 20, 2022, and welcome to the sun's first full day transiting in Aquarius for the year. The sun in Aquarius really brings us up out of that hardworking, earthen initiative mode that was Capricorn, which is necessary sometimes. We really have to roll up our sleeves and do some work, get our hands dirty, so to speak. But there's a time also, once we've done a lot of work, to lift back and gain some perspective on the situation. Sort of, if you've been bent over your work for a while, stand up, stand back a little bit, and get a big picture on what it is that you're working on. Because in Aquarius, we can dwell in the questions that come up, especially regarding, how that work is going for us, what we can do to refine our process and make it less difficult, less challenging for ourselves. And we can find inspiration by getting that big picture. Also, even though you pull back to gain some perspective at this time, you don't want to be distracted from your goals and ambitions. So this is still focus on the goals and the intentions at hand. It's still focus on the labor that we have to give and the love that we have to give, but it's focused from a bigger picture perspective, and also just keeping in mind that the work that we do is not just for ourselves and our own. It is to benefit the greater community, the wider world. And we see Mercury in retrograde over here in Aquarius. Mercury will be in Aquarius for a little bit longer, and we'll discuss Mercury retrograde when it comes up a little bit later here. The moon is beginning in Leo this morning, but it makes transit pretty early into Virgo. So this is a shift in our heart and home from, the warm, fiery glow that helps us sort of uncurl our leaves and feel nourished, to more of a creative, healing, earthen vibe, which is Virgo. And we'll discuss that a little bit more in a minute here too. The waning gibbous phase of this moon, this is a time when we are feeling pretty satisfied with, hopefully with, the goals and intentions we set for ourselves in the last month. And we are enjoying still the fruits of our labor. We're feeling very connected and stable to ourselves in the heart and home specifically, and we feel fulfilled. But it's also a time to reflect. Let me pull out a pen here. I'll use red today. So, enjoying the fruits. And also reflect on how it went for you, getting to the point where you could enjoy those fruits, so that we will have an idea when the third quarter moon comes up next Tuesday, what it is time to release, because it's no longer serving us. So enjoy the fruits of your labor and reflect on how things have gone for you, so that you can begin to sort of revise the plan for next time. Okay, let's go over our legend very quickly, so that we have an idea what the energies are that we're working with today. The sun is always at the top of the list. The sun represents the outer life. This is work, social, and civic life, friends. So who are you in the work, social, and civic life? That's your outer life, the person that people first get to know when they meet you. The moon represents the inner life. This is more about your relationship with yourself, those things you think, feel, and know on the inside, and also how you come to engage in your domestic life. So who you are when you're at home and with the people that you're at home with and in the place where your home is. Mars is here. Mars represents your personal sense of initiative, whatever fires you up and gets you motivated to do something. Jupiter represents growth, expansion, positive vibrations, good fortune. Venus is our planet for love and money, or how do we relate to those people and things that we value the most. And Mercury is the personal planet for the intellect, so it's your thoughts, plans, and communications and the running around that you do. As for aspect energies, we have a couple on the page today. We have 3 on the page today. Trine is a harmonious, very positive vibration. It might seem like you have some synchronicities at that time. It might seem as though things in a certain aspect of your life are functioning ideally. Ingress is a sign of transition, as a planet is literally moving out of one sign and into the next. So the sign's effects on the planets change, and that planet's effects on us will change. And we'll feel that. And then opposite or opposition relates to the potential for conflict, but also an opportunity to find a balance for those of us who are highly conflict avoidant. So the signs of mention on the page today are Aquarius, Leo, Virgo, and Scorpio. With all of that said, we'll get into the aspects here. I have divided the page into 2 columns, one for each of our luminaries. Like I said, the moon is about your inner life, what you think, feel, and know on the inside, and how you are in your home space. And these moon aspects, they tend to go very quickly, sort of like feelings, moods, and emotions. They arise and then they fall away. They happen very quickly, and they have more to do with your inner life, so they're on this side. The sun side of the page, the sun sheds light on your outer life, who you are in the work, social, and civic life. And I address the rest of the planets and their aspects over here because they have more to do with what happens in our work, social, and civic life, and they take longer than those moon aspects. And we start with the moon today. Central Standard Time, friends. We have a 2:15 a.m. Moon trine Mars. So this is a great 2-hour aspect, a good way to be in the middle of the night or just as you're starting out your day. This is a void of course moon, so that says that it's making its last aspect in the sign of Leo before it goes into Virgo, and there's this space in between that we will talk about. So at this time, your dreams are likely to be bearing material fruit. And I didn't think when I wrote that, because I've been trying to take a more reflective approach to this. I didn't think when I wrote that about the fact that it is dream time. It's 2 in the morning, so you're likely to be dreaming at this time, or it's sort of deep, like down in your subconscious. So at this time, your dreams are bearing material fruit, and it's important to share what you've gained, especially at home, with those people that you keep close to your heart and your body. And also in this situation, we want to seek the win-win. Mars has a lot of initiative and fire, and Mars likes to go first, and it also likes to, cross the finish line first. But Mars is also not just competitive, but collaborative. So we kind of want everybody to win. We enjoy the feeling of seeing other people gain, especially in ways that we have gained. And then at 8:02 in the morning, the moon makes ingress to Virgo. So moon in Virgo does have an earth vibe, but it is our mutable earth vibe. So Virgos are very quick thinking, able to make changes quickly. They're very interested in solving problems and healing. So under this lunar influence for 2.5 days, that's going to be our focus, is is healing and mending things, making things better, knowing what kind of work we can do to do that. Beware of overworking yourself or of overindulging other people. So sometimes we're like, we're working so hard, especially to help other people, that we don't know when to stop trying to be helpful. and then at that point, we're either overindulging somebody, or we might be annoying them. Also, everything we do is good for someone and evil for someone else, or good for one part of life and bad for another part of life. And this, by the way, friends, is the knowledge of good and evil. So just understand that, in our efforts to help and to heal, there's a balance to be struck. Okay, especially like if you're giving too much or if you're working too hard, then you're doing that to your detriment. And people don't want to be helped to your detriment. Most people, don't want to be helped with the realization that it harms you. So give the help that you can without doing any harm to yourself. Then at 4:58 in the evening, the moon makes an opposition to Jupiter. Now, moon in aspect to Jupiter is almost always a good time for us. We kind of open up, we become really expansive and generous. We feel good about how things are going for us, and we want to share that joy with other people. We feel that heart and that joy and expansiveness in our heart, and we just want to bring it out to the world and spread the love, so to speak. And under this influence, as I was reflecting on it, I feel like we're encouraged when moon is in aspect with Jupiter to sort of cut loose, to take a break from the work that we're doing, and like I said with Sun in Aquarius, pull back and gain some perspective. Give our hearts and minds a little bit of a break so that we can gain perspective and inspiration. But be aware when, with the opposition aspect here, be aware of the cutting loose and the gaining of, while you're cutting loose and gaining inspiration, how much is too much? And I'm not saying too much inspiration, but I am saying how much is too much cutting loose, right? How much is too much pleasure either to give or receive? How much is too much attention either to give or receive? This is a 2-hour aspect. And of course, I see the parallel here. The moon is really telling us for today that, we can overindulge ourselves, or we can overindulge other people, even having the sincerest of heartfelt intentions. So be careful with that. And I do want to talk about this space between the void of course moon, which is the last aspect that it makes in the sign of Leo before going into Virgo. The period of void of course, right here, this period of time, is a great time to dive into intuitive practices. And that's really because, I should have said something about this yesterday when we had no moon aspects, but that's really because, we're kind of in between influences at this time. We're in between Leo's warm growth light and Virgo's I want to help light, right? So at that time, it's a good time just to sort of center ourselves, get grounded, feel your feet on the ground and your butt in the seat, right? And not think, but go within and feel your way to gain insight bearing material fruit and this sort of desire to win, and also the potential for overwork and overindulgence. So on the sun side of the page in the ongoing column through the 29th, we still have Venus in retrograde, and we've been doing this for several weeks. We have had our commitments under review. Those are our partnerships in the workspace, it's our partnership, with ourself to do the work that we do. It's also our partnerships in the romance arena, but also among our friends and families. Just like look at your partnerships, look at those things that you're committed to, that you give to and receive from, and we've been making that assessment of whether we're getting the value for our investment. So did I say we've been making the investigation into whether we're getting our value for our investment? So, on reflecting on this today, I think it's important now that we've been giving that some thought and we've been advocating for ourselves somewhat. Don't be afraid in these partnerships. If you see the need for something to shift or change or grow, don't be afraid to take the lead and make the communication and say, you know what, this is what I need, this is what I desire, this is what I think this relationship can be for me right now. And, in your communication, which, we're having some challenges with communication now, but that just means that we have to be really intentional and concise about our communication, make sure that it comes across the way we want it to. Just don't be afraid to take the lead and, again, advocate for yourself and say, I think that, we can get the best out of this friendship, this partnership, this relationship, this workspace partnership, our partnership with ourselves in our workspace. All of our needs and desires can be met if we're able to actually engage in partnership. And occasionally partnership means taking the lead. And then we have Mercury in retrograde, which is going on through the 3rd of February. So Mercury in retrograde does indicate a sort of static in our communications with other people in the outside world, those people that we work with and socialize with, and those people in our civic sphere. It also does have to do with our communications at home, but it's very much it's an inner life planet, but it really connects us to the rest of the world. So one thing to do when Mercury is in retrograde, one intuitive thing is that we communicate more with ourselves, right? We have to talk to ourselves about how best to get our communication and plan making out into the world, because it's not as simple as just saying what you think. When Mercury is in retrograde, it's not as simple as just sending out a text like, hey, I'm thinking of you, and that's good, right? So definitely, listen to yourself, listen to your gut guidance and intuition before you start, trying to express yourself to other people. And hopefully this listening to ourselves will also open up our ability a little bit at this time to listen to others, because that is a struggle that I have noticed during Mercury in retrograde, is forgetting to listen to others because I'm so frustrated that I'm not able to get across what I want to say. So that's the time to turn within and seek that inner guidance. Also, express yourself in a way that works for your expression to be received. So I think I just kind of said that already, but you have to think about it. If you communicated something and it did not seem to come across, then it's okay to say, well, I told you that and you didn't listen, right? But that kind of just puts that other person on a defensive. And also it speaks of us not taking responsibility for making the communication properly. Okay, so I can tell you something, and I can tell you the way I would tell you normally, or the way I would best like to tell you. And, that's going to come across one way. But if you know someone well, or a situation well enough that that there's a better way to get yourself across, you got to think about how other people receive information too. And so, do your best at this time while Mercury is in retrograde to express yourself, but to do it in a concise and intentional way. And that includes knowing how it's received by other people, knowing how others best receive the information you're trying to get across. And, something just came up for me. I'm just going to say this. if you've got a whatever kind of relationship you have with the person that you're dealing with, whether you know them or not, some guidance I received a long time ago was if you need to have a conversation, especially if you're having difficulty getting, if you're having challenges getting an idea across or your thoughts across, or if you're having challenges feeling like you've been heard, when you come back to the conversation, it's a good thing to remind the other person of your relationship. So, if I were to talk to my spouse about something that was important for me to get across to her, and she did not seem to be hearing what I was saying, I might back it up and go, listen, I've known you for 40 years. We went to school together. Do you remember that? Just remind the person of the relationship that you're in, and that will help them become more receptive to you because they're reminded of who you are to them. And that, I use the example of my wife, but I can also use the example, say, of the person that I work for at the salon. So, I can call up the person at the salon and I can say, I don't feel like you've been getting my message, but listen, we just met like 6 months ago, and, you seem to be this kind of person, and I've been enjoying working with you and for you for these reasons. And then move into the communication that you want to make across, that you want to come across, because then that helps them to reflect and get back into the space where they are with you. And then they will be able to receive your message, and you'll be able to have a more productive conversation. So that's something that has really worked for me over the years. And hopefully you can take it as good advice, or if it doesn't resonate for you, leave it where it lies. Lies feels better to come out of my mouth. Leave it where it lies, but it might be leave it where it lay. That's probably proper. Okay. Somebody comment and let me know. Somebody with an English degree or something, comment and let me know. I know lots of English degrees. Okay, so coming up this Sunday, the sun is going conjunct with Mercury in retrograde, right? So we are traveling on the same level of the ellipse. It's like a dinner plate that goes around the sun of planets, right? But we're all traveling at our own paces on our ring of the dinner plate. So when Mercury goes retrograde, when another planet goes retrograde, it really goes to the other side of the sun from us. And then it will appear to pass behind the sun and come back. And every time I talk about this, I wobble that thing because I'm gesturing in a way that you can't even see. Isn't that funny? So this is what Mercury has done. It's gone retrograde, and now it is kind of hiding behind the sun. The sun is overlapping Mercury, but in conjunct, that means that it means that they brighten each other's effects. So the sun becomes extra bright, and the Mercury in retrograde becomes extra Mercury in retrograde. So this Sunday, look out, friends, if it's gonna happen, and I'm talking about that right there. If it's gonna happen, look for Sunday to be the day, and maybe just plan to have a day of having conversations with yourself and rather than other people. Try to maybe plan to have a day of being more patient and ready for things to not resolve themselves very quickly. Okay, there's static between us and Mercury, and it's called the sun. So the sun's shining on us and it's shining on Mercury, and there's just so much brightness in between there that sometimes we can't see the way. And then on next Tuesday, we have that waning third quarter moon in Scorpio, and that's going to be the time to begin to actually get rid of the things that don't work for us any longer. So right now we're in this phase of enjoying the fruits of our labor and sort of reflecting on how it went for us, so that we can begin to decide what we're going to let go of, what didn't work for us. And then on Tuesday, we're going to see what didn't work for us, and we're going to start just pushing it out of our lives in whatever way that we can. And that is it for the aspects today, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Give me a thumbs up, a subscription, send this video to somebody that you think it might resonate with. I appreciate all the push-ups, all the comments. I'm ready to be engaged in conversation with you. So I appreciate you showing up here. And now I am going to talk about the card on the side of the page here. We are in the first decan of Aquarius. So decans are 10-degree portions of the year. So there are 36 of them because we have 36 degrees in the wheel of the year and 365 days. So each decan is just a little bit over 10 days long. Each decan is just over 10 degrees long, and each sun transit is 30 degrees. So you get 3 decans for each of the sun transits. We are now in the first decan of Aquarius sun transit, and that's the 5 of Swords. And the 5 of Swords, you know, the thing that always comes up to me first and foremost is choose your battles. You know, you can get into arguments with people. Swords are, you know, thoughts, communications, plan making. So when I talk about battles, I'm talking about those verbal battles that we engage in, whether, you know, with our loved ones at home or on Facebook because we're just mad at the world, etc., etc. But, oh, I dropped some cards. This one, you know, choose your battles, because you can be pretty lonely. You know, you can win a battle but lose support, right? You can win a battle but, you know, not really gain anything from it except the satisfaction of having won. And, you know, that's not the reason to have a battle. Okay, so that's what's coming to me from that today. Just be careful, again, with your communications. Be very concise about what you mean to say. And, you know, don't go seeking out fights and arguments. Because even if you can win, you know, you might actually lose. Okay, so now I'm going to throw a card for the day. I'm just going to go through and remind myself and us all that the sun's first day in Aquarius. Mercury retrograde is also currently in Aquarius. The waning gibbous moon is asking us to enjoy the fruits of our labor and reflect. The moon is transiting today from Leo and into Virgo. We have, you know, a really positive lunar aspect this morning with Mars, and a somewhat positive lunar aspect this evening with Jupiter as well, as long as we, you know, promise not to overindulge, you know, especially to the point of harming ourselves. And of course, Venus and Mercury are still in retrograde. And Sun conjunct Mercury is coming up. Woo-hoo. Okay, so what we have here is the Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords, aces are often beginnings, but they're also just representative of the entire suit. And the suit of swords, like I said, is about your thoughts, plans, and communications. It's the intellect. It's the movement of information. And one thing is that information moves fast. They say word travels fast, right? Information can move directly out, like your brain can steal a thought out of the air. And that's how we phrase it, is we get these thoughts out of the air, right? Your brain can steal a thought out of the air and put it directly out your mouth and into the world, okay? So one thing I want to, you know, talk about with Mercury in retrograde is, you know, we don't have to say everything that we think, okay? Especially if it's something we haven't said before. You know, think about the company you're in. Think about the way you're being received. And you can think all the thoughts that you want. You can have all the original thoughts that you want. But let's make sure that, you know, when we're talking to ourselves, we can be as blunt as we want to. But when we're expressing ourselves to others, we want to be received well, especially at this time. Okay. Also, you know, Ace of Swords, that's like a new idea coming in, like seriously, an inspiration, manna from heaven, just entering our skulls and giving us great ideas. And that's, that's what Sun in Aquarius is about, is, pulling back and gaining some perspective so that we become open to bigger ideas. If you have a view of the bigger picture, then you have a view of the bigger ideas that are available to you. So I think that's an appropriate card for today. And like I said, thank you very much for joining me today. And my name is Melanie Rose, and I will see you all back here tomorrow for some more daily aspects.